It's a fifth line day. Hello, we're still in gate 31, of course, and the fifth line is called self-righteousness. There is a lifetime learning here that says lack of external influence guaranteed by attitude. So the first line, as we know, always shows us the basic nature of a hexagram. And we've seen that the nature of this gate is manifesting the influence to make the transference of the influence. When we get to the fifth line, we see how leadership is perceived by the world. And the way that people perceive influence and leadership, those who carry influence in this line of self-righteousness. And what we see, what is projected on the universal leader, is that they are only interested in themselves, only interested in power. This is in being the boss, in being the one in charge. This is the kind of standard, the worldview, the impression of our leaders. This is what everybody is projecting onto them, that they are in it for their own self-aggrandizement. You can see that all around. Not a difficult one to resonate to, really. In the exaltation, we have a natural specialization that only develops in isolation. However, when the development is complete, the extremely difficult and generally impossible task of externalizing the influence, a specialization that demands that one lead oneself. So the fifth line is very fixed on leadership. I'm having trouble with this gate. I don't seem able to what's the word, articulate it really well. I've got it twice. You'd think I would be able to tune into it, but anyway, the fifth line is very fixed on leading itself. It is not so concerned about being anybody else's leader, but the outside world is projecting on them because they look like people who are leading themselves and they have influence and they're comfortable with their own direction. Other people project on them and say, hey, what about us? Why aren't you sharing your leadership with us? It's a collective gate, after all. Exactly opposite this is the 7, line 5, the general. So think about the difficulty of the general. Fifth lines really do have gifts, but they're not called upon unless we're in a time of crisis and need. And this is when they can bring their practical solutions, their practical gifts to the resolution. They also know that they have to get out once their job is done. We know. We can see that in our interactions with the general. Sorry, I've got to do this. It's a little eye staring at me over the top of my camera. We know that the general can come in, save the day, and then they have to quit. They've accomplished their task. They are not allowed to stay in that position of the alpha or the leader. That's not their role. The 31.5 is a natural specialization. They're very good leaders, but they're only leaders for certain situations and at certain times. Ra observed that it happens often in life that a group of people get into a situation where suddenly somebody unlikely takes charge in a moment of crisis, making sure that everything goes through smoothly, everything happens. They just pop up in that moment. But they would never be allowed to keep that role other than in that time of crisis. And in a time of crisis, certain people are equipped and others are not. All fifth lines are ready in a time of crisis because that's their moment and their possible cue to be on stage and play out that amazing universalizing role that they have. In the detriment, we have a deep focus on personal experience that is self-fulfilling and has no external ambitions. A lack of ambition where one is content to lead oneself. So this is the 31.5 who's saying, I'm too busy leading my own life right now. Why should I lead yours? My life is much more important to me than the collective's life. And aside from that, I actually don't think you've got it right. And this is that resonance that the fifth line has to the second line, which you'll remember was called arrogance. So these two lines here, the exaltation and the detriment, are essentially the same. The only difference is that the exalted still has a bit of ambition to lead, And they're saying, you know, I'm going to mind my own business, wait over here for that time of crisis, and then I'll be there ready. Whereas the detriment is saying, I am waiting over here because I don't care. I am apathetic to all of those people in this time of crisis. It's very difficult for our fifth line to work logically in terms of leadership, because this is the line of the heretic. And it's all about coming to this specific moment, having an impact, and going out. But this is not a democracy. This is not the way we work. So it's not an easy universalization to carry. The 41.5 is called authorization. And this line is the sort of external recognition of one's potential despite limitations. The fifth line carries a natural authority. Oh, it's a genetic thing. They're the general. They can come in, they can save the day, and given the right call, it will all go really well. To be self-righteous is to carry a particular frequency, you know, to sit in that projection field and carry it off. 41.5 can support that frequency by bringing its authorization to the role. Mars is on the move tomorrow morning. It transits into the logical throat gate 16 at 6:41. This is enthusiasm, the gate of skills, where we find the great art of enriching life by the harmonic channeling of energy. There is a need to be strongly identified with the chosen skill in order to undertake the process of constant repetition. It's a skill in itself to be so disciplined and focused. And Mars carries the energy of maturing through a process, finding your skill, then sticking with it, gradually, step by step, mastering it, identifying with it, and becoming it. The moon went into gate 24 at 7:27 this morning. This is the individual Ajna gate. Oh, let me just, sorry, hold on, just rewind and go back to the 16 because, oh, has it moved on? Sorry, forget it. I'm just having a moment. The moon, yes, sorry, it's still in gate 24. It went in not long ago, a couple of hours ago at 7:27. So this is the individual Ajna gate called the return. This is the gate of rationalization with its natural and spontaneous process of transformation and renewal. Gate 24 has the qualities of an individual thinker, someone who is bound to return to a concept, contemplating it until it is clear, and it then has the potential to impact others. Actually, really wants to mutate others. Impacting is maybe a manifest keyword that is not appropriate here, but certainly mutating others because this is individuality. Moon moves into the individual G center gate 2 at 17:10. This is the receptive, the gate of the direction of the self, the most yin of all the gates, and the seat of the magnetic monopole, the driver of this vehicle. This is the root of action with an innate sense of direction. It's nothing to do with willpower, it's nothing to do with the mind, but it's the knowing that can take it forward. This is individuality. Knowing is a keynote here. It's taking us on a journey towards love and beauty as part of a larger unfolding. And the moon stays in individuality as it moves into the throat gate 23 at 2:56 tomorrow morning, the gate of splitting apart, the gate of assimilation. This is the awareness and understanding that leads to acceptance of diversity. You can have the gift of truly innovative thinking that can cut through standardized concepts. But this particular, well, all of individuality, but this channel, this the 23:43 between the ajna and the throat, really, really important to get the timing right, because what you've got to say is so important and it's so necessary to be heard, but it won't be heard if the timing isn't right. And it's also a projector gate, so it needs invitation, recognition, timing, and invitation. Those are the three things that will ensure that the message is heard correctly by those who need to hear it. So that is our transit weather today. Thank you very much for joining me, and I will see you again tomorrow when we have a 6th line day and we'll be at the top of the 31st 31st thingy. I'm going. Go gently. Bye bye.